All right. So inflation and unemployment. All right. I'll be talking about inflation and unemployment and kind of how they relate to each other. They relate to each other and they go on a graph. And that graph is the Phillips curve. And so there's short run Phillips curve, there's long run Phillips curve. They both kind of mean different things and have different effects. Um, but the long run is also commonly known as NAIRU or NAIRU, and that I'll tell you what that stands for later, but that's just another name for the long run Phillips curve. So inflation, just kind of the basics of inflation here. The definition of inflation, it's inflation is an overall rise in prices in the economy, and this that pretty much just means when prices get high and all the prices go up, that's inflation. So expensive prices means inflation. Inflation and unemployment have an inverse relationship to each other, and so that inverse relationship means that it means that as one increases, the other decreases, and it makes it into kind of a downward sloping line. I'll show you in just a second on the next slide. So when there's a recessionary output gap, essentially a recession, Y, or also known as the actual output, when actual output is less than Y prime, which is potential output. So actual less than potential, there's high unemployment, there's low borrowing, low DM, low prices. So there's not as many people taking out loans. There's a lot of people that are unemployed, don't have jobs, but prices are low. So it's kind of a trade-off there. And then when there's inflationary output gap, that's when the actual Y is greater than potential Y star, or Y prime. And so that causes low unemployment. So most people have jobs, they're working, but there's a high demand for labor and other factors of production. And so that makes high prices. So everyone's working, but they got to go pay that for the high prices. And that's what causes inflation. And that is inflation. So inflation and monetary policy, there's a strong positive relationship between the output gap and inflation, as you can kind of see on that graph. And then the Phillips curve models the connection between inflation and unemployment in the short run. So here's an example of what a short run Phillips curve would look like. It just has inflation on the y-axis, unemployment on the x-axis, and that downward sloping Phillips curve. That's just to show, again, the inverse relationship between the two of them. And so, like, if inflation increases, unemployment decreases, things like that. Like if inflation's 6, unemployment's 6, then it decreases. Inflation goes up to 8, unemployment goes down to 4. So here we go. This is Phillips curve in the long run, a little bit different than short run. So a long run Phillips curve, it is a vertical curve indicating no trade-off between inflation and unemployment. So as you can see here, this line is vertical, and it's kind of a constant line. These are the short run curves right here, but then this one is vertical, and so that's the long run. Another term for the long run Phillips curve is NAIRU, or NAIRU, and that just means non-accelerating inflation rate of unemployment, and that's the specific level of unemployment that does not cause inflation to increase. So this is kind of where it gives you your equilibrium. You can see here it's C or A, and that's like a set kind of constant rate of unemployment where inflation isn't going up or going down, and that's why it's a vertical line, and it's long run. So short run, it changes a lot. Long run, it kind of stays the same for the most part. All right, implications for monetary policy. So short run policy, central banks may exploit the trade-off to reduce unemployment temporarily. They'll use that again, that no trade-off thing to reduce unemployment. And then long run, they attempting to keep unemployment below the NAIRU can lead to accelerating inflation. Thus, monetary policy aims to stabilize inflation expectations. So they want inflation to be stable and not increasing, decreasing. They just want it to be kind of a stable. And then the goal of the central bank is to keep unemployment rate as close to NAIRU, the natural level, as possible, and to keep inflation under control. Again, kind of the same thing, stabilizing that inflation and the NAIRU, the long run Phillips curve. But thanks for listening.